Hello, hello. Welcome back to episode 2 of On Occasion.
What's up? Welcome.
I'm Canaan.
I'm Chris.
I'm with Details Nashville.
And I'm with Sewing Clover Photography.
We're going to get this down like real smooth at some point. It's going to be awesome. But for now, that's what it is. And today, we're going to jump right into it, I think. Yeah?
What are we jumping into?
We're going to jump into how to pick the right photographer for really your wedding or event. Like we're not going to kind of limit this. I think we talked about this like right beforehand. Like not limiting it to just weddings, whatever it is. Your big party, your big bash celebration, whether or a corporate event or commercial, whatever we're going to do here. And just picking the right photographer. What do you need to think through?
Okay. Oh, you're asking me.
No, I was just
saying that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can start if you want.
Oh, sure.
Or you can ask me a question. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll defer to your wisdom so far.
Okay.
I don't know what you think.
My first thought is the very first question you should have when you inquire with your photographer is, do you have the date open?
Oh, yeah.
That's like definitely the very first thing. And ironically, it is.
And like, do you have any heart disease? Like, what do you think you're going to make it to?
Man, that's
date?
a good question.
Some brides are booking 18 months in advance.
Yeah, because a lot can happen.
What's your
in 18
family
months.
medical history?
Right, which mine's poor. Like, oh God, a lot of bad life decisions and a lot of bad genetics. That kind of makes up my family history there. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, it's good to see you all.
Yeah.
You should be well equipped.
Probably shouldn't be in this industry. Just bad.
Okay,
bad
keep going. Sorry.
So, all right. So, first thing to do, make sure your that the date's available, that your photographer has the date available. I would say, yeah, I've like made blog posts about this. I've made reels about this on social media, and I still forget to be like, hey, what date are we talking about again? When I have a consult with a bride or groom, and luckily, it doesn't happen very often, but there are occasions where it's like we get to the end of the conversation and it's like, okay, so she's like, May 2nd. And I'm like, ooh.
Oh, really?
I'm not available May 2nd.
Oh, okay.
And then it doesn't happen very often. On occasion, it doesn't happen. And then we have to have like the discussion of like, well, actually, I have associates available. We can talk about associates. But if that does happen, you can avoid it by just right out the gate.
Right out of the gate.
This is my wedding date.
Yeah.
Are you available? This is my event date.
Yeah,
Are you available? Because that kind of drives whether or not you need to carry the conversation forward, talking about the event or wedding.
Yeah. Well, in Details Nashville, y'all have a team of photographers.
We do. Yeah.
So in y'all's scenario, there's a little more flexibility.
There is.
But with Sewing Clover Photography, don't have associates. It's primarily people are reaching out, I think, because they want to hire me.
Correct.
So it's like, for me, it's pretty pivotal up front to be like, yes or no, I'm available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure. And then like, what for you, I think there's like several directions you can take this, but for like in your mind, what comes next? Like dates available, next thing.
Well, I don't know. I guess I would just think like really digging in as much as possible to how experienced the photographer is. So like some photographers, their websites will have like, they'll have portfolios. So they'll have a lot of good photos, but they don't have any blogs or like they don't have any full weddings. And that just seems, to me, that's like, oh, are you primarily just someone's second photographer? Like, how much experience do you have leading and directing a wedding? Because there's so many more dynamics to the day of like, can your photographer control the day when your groomsmen are going crazy or they're like missing clothes or they're acting like feral cats? Like, can your photographer take charge of the moment and like still produce quality work while being a kind individual, you know? And so I think knowing for sure that photographers have like a pretty large scope of, cataloged work to be seen. And even, I don't actually want brides to ask me these questions because it's just more back-end work for me to do. But I think that brides should be like, can you send me a full gallery? Like, I want to see a whole wedding from like start to finish, 600, 800, however many photos it is. And brides don't ask me that a lot, and I don't offer it because they're not asking. But I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point is, I think as photographers, when it comes to social media or our website or whatever, we're trying to post our best work.
Key moments.
Yeah. And which, those are great moments. It's a, good showcase of your work and your ability and what you can capture. But a full wedding really is a depiction of like, okay, this is kind of how I can anticipate my gallery looking when it's delivered.
Right.
And, I think there's situations where you run into where photographers may be really great at the formals. Like they're highly creative and their stuff is, very beautiful. But when it comes to, but that's it. You know what I mean? It's like a one show.
Yeah, they're not great at candid.
Where you're like, they're not going to capture a lot of those like authentic, unposed moments because they're not looking for those when their mind is just on formals. They're like, that's my thing. Or it's like, it's not just your thing. It needs to be more than that, right? Like you're capturing someone's day. It's more than just the formals.
Yeah, unless, I know some friends up in Pennsylvania, and like that's what they dominate is formals. Yeah. And they tell their prospective clients, we're going to crush the bride and groom photos. Mm-hmm. Your bridal party photos going to be boring. The rest of the day photos going to be boring. But they're so talented that doesn't set them back.
Yeah, that's a good, I like that. I think that's a good way to talk about that too. Explaining that there are differences. Yeah. And I think also being upfront is important. I think that's a really great way to approach it for them to be like, hey, listen.
Yeah, they just
we're going to blow your socks off with our formals. But the rest of the day is just, we're going to capture it. Yeah. But it's not going to like.
But then there are some photographers, like 2015, I had a wedding in Toronto, mm-hmm. and my second photographer and I flew into Buffalo, and I found out a couple days beforehand that they don't let American wedding photographers photograph in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Because it's stealing a job from a Canadian.
Right.
So I was just like, whatever. I'll just lie to get across the border. I don't know. Who cares? So I get to the Border Patrol and going into Canada, right up north of Buffalo, the Niagara Falls crossing. I have to be very descriptive so you can all picture it apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm trying to get across on the Canadian Border Patrol is like, why are you coming to Canada? And I was like, I'm going to a friend's wedding. How do you know the friend? Oh, I met her at a wedding I photographed years ago in Atlanta. And then he was like, pull your car over. Anyways, long story short, I get thrown out of Canada and I have to find, this is a Friday and the wedding is Saturday. So I have to find somebody in Canada to photograph this wedding for me. And I ended up finding this dude who's like, I think I paid $5,000 for him to cover this wedding. So I just bled money on the travel expenses and now paying this guy. And when he sent me the work back, he had 2 or 3 photos that are just, they're still some of my favorite photos that I even like, they're on my website.
Yeah.
They're amazing. But the rest of his work was pretty nominal. Mm-hmm. But he was just like so good at like one specific thing, backlighting or, using depth, layering things.
Yeah, sure.
So he had a couple like killer photos.
Right.
But I think the copious like amount of his work is like fairly standard.
Which I think is fine. I think one, for brides, knowing what you want. Because we've had brides who are like, you and I shot a wedding together. It was one of my weddings where they wanted like 3 hours of formals. It was a downtown Nashville wedding. And
I don't remember this wedding.
They were like, it was a couple years ago. And the photos turned out great. Wedding turned out great. They're from Florida. It was a destination wedding for them. And they were just like, we don't really care about family photos. We don't really care about anything else except the formals. Like we want, and they really did. They slotted like 2.5 hours, 3 hours for formals. And I was sitting there going like, oh, sweet Lord. That was a long time.
Yeah. That's a lot to be creative to kind of keep
rolling. And so I was real thankful I had you, and we had a third shooter that day. Cause I was just like, I think I got about solid 45 minutes here, and then I'm going to be tapped out in terms of creativity. So that was like, you have those moments too, where I think that's something brides can think through too, is like, what is important to me on the day?
Yeah.
Because that's going to help you choose the photographer as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And maybe a couple other things I would think about would be, I often have brides ask me what my style is. Personally, I really don't like answering that question because I don't know how to label it. At this point, I just tell brides I'm an expert. Like I've been doing this for so long, I can do whatever you need in any scenario. But I really, if someone's work just resonates, then go with it. Like if you're looking at all their stuff on their site. But occasionally I'll have brides be like, hey, you edit like this. Could you edit like this for me? And I really can't.
This is such a hot topic.
Not because I don't want to. Yeah. I'm like, I only know how to edit this way. This is how I edit photos. And so I don't know. I think finding a photographer, it's like you already like their work and you don't have to request them to do something different because some people are going to say yes because they want the money, which I get, but are they really going to be able to produce the same quality they produce in this style? Right. Can they do it in this style?
Well, and then also like if you're trying to create any sort of brand consistency, but you're accommodating whatever your client is requesting in terms of something other than what you do, that's going to create issues down the road as you build your portfolio, especially if you're just starting out. Like, unless you make that your thing where you're like all things to all people, whatever it is. Cool.
Yeah. And some people have that kind of diversity.
Yeah.
And
some people can pull that off. I think in the past, like you're saying, and closer to the beginning, I think part of this worked because we didn't really have our style down yet, even in terms of editing and palette. We could be like, oh yeah, we can shoot a little more moody. Yeah, we can shoot however, like whatever the request was. As we've moved along though, like you can see editing style got more consistent. Our color palette got more consistent.
That sounds
right.
And
so then it's like, actually, no, this is like how we shoot. And either you like that or you don't. Like, but if this is what you're looking for, I'm happy to recommend some photographers I'd recommend who shoot that style.
Yeah.
That may be available that you can check out. That I vouch for their work and their character, and I'm happy to promote them to you.
Do you send weddings away ever?
I have on occasion for those situations specifically where it's like, hey, listen, we don't do this, but this person does, and you should check them out.
Okay.
And we've done that more so actually with like video, where people have had very specific styles for how they want their video to be done, and it's like, hey, listen, we don't do anything like that.
Yeah.
This is probably not going to be a good fit. Like, I don't think we're going to be able to produce something that in the end you're going to be happy with. And I think like that's like, as a small business owner, you're kind of like, ooh, maybe I can, like you don't want to turn away the money or the work.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, in my opinion, that's always a better move to do that than to like try to do something that isn't you, and then it just be like, you're not happy at the end, and neither is your client, because it wasn't something that you do, and you shouldn't have. You just should have been honest and been like, hey, I'm really happy you reached out to me, but this isn't me.
Right.
And just being honest.
I think in however many years, I've probably only turned down 2 weddings. One of them I remember, I was kind of sad. The bride, we'd like had a couple consults, and the groom just kept like wanting to ask for more and more discounts. And I'm happy to give a discount if it makes sense, but it was just like, he just kept like trying to chip off. And then so finally we had this like last phone call, them and me, and I just told him, I was like, I don't think I'm a good fit for y'all. I think you'll do better with a different photographer. And the bride was just crying on the phone, just weeping, because she really wanted me to photograph the wedding.
Right.
But I didn't like her fiance. And so I just felt like I'm going to be a disservice to them, because he really wanted something specific, and like especially financially, and I just couldn't accommodate. So I felt kind of bad. She's like weeping, but I was like, you'll probably be happier with somebody else.
Yeah.
That's one of the only 2 times I can think of turning someone down.
So I have a similar story, and this is actually just a few years ago, where I feel like I can really handle most people, even regardless of where I'm, like, because this is such like a social emotional job. You're not just photographing a wedding, like you're managing the couple's emotions, you're managing the family's emotions, you're managing your own emotions, you're managing all the emotions.
Joe and his camera.
If you're really good at it, like you're able to dance around all those things.
You're so light on your feet.
I'm a freaking ballerina, bro. So good.
That one time I picked you up and we spun.
Yeah. That was a nice moment. Yeah. I liked that. But in regards to saying no to a wedding, I had sometimes it's not the bride or the groom. Sometimes it's the parents. And the most recent one that I had to be like, I'm not doing this, was we actually never even met the couple. And it was one of those situations where like, this is for the internet. I'm looking right at the camera now. As you're learning and growing, if you're new to photography, you get to a certain level of weddings where it's a high enough bracket where the couple is almost secondary, and you're dealing exclusively with the mother of the bride and the planner, and you may not even meet the couple until you photograph them. This was one of those weddings. And the mother of the bride was a nightmare. A lawyer of some sort, tore apart the contract, chewed up my office manager, who, without her, I wouldn't have a job. So anytime anyone's mean to her, I'm like, I got violence in my heart type of thing. I get real angry. But I was just like, this mother of the bride was awful. And I was just like, I'm not doing this wedding. If we want to try and get associates to shoot it, that's fine. We can circumnavigate this, whatever. I'm not doing it. I was like completely out, just because I was like, I'm not willing to deal with this nightmare of a person. And I didn't shoot it. I feel like that's pretty rare for me, but I was just like, absolutely not. You are, you're a terrible human, and I don't want to deal with you. So said no.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I want to keep talking about the line of things that bride should look for.
Yeah.
But I also just want to ask if you have any regrets in wedding photography.
Any regret? Like, what do you mean? Be more like regrets
I don't
in
know,
wedding
looking
photography?
back over, looking over the past, in your whole career, is there things you wish you had done differently, or things
or things I wish I would have done differently? I think I wish I would have been more confident early on. Because I think looking back, the skill set was there. I just wasn't confident in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think just because of my own insecurities or like not wanting to embrace whatever capacity I had, I limited myself or said no to certain things, or even like didn't try. I won't go as far to say like self-sabotage, but didn't like lean into what I knew I was capable of early on. I think I could have pushed the progress button a lot harder and maybe been further along to some degree. I mean, we're doing great, but like, I think there could have been like different opportunities arise had I been like embraced my capacity and been a little more confident.
Wow.
Early on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
But not like, I don't think like, nothing like negative really.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh crap, I really messed this up.
Yeah, sure. I feel like I've been confident since day one, which was ignorant of me. I just never thought like, I just didn't know what I didn't know, and I had been a best man at that point like 12 times, and I don't know, a groomsman 20. So I just was like, oh, I know weddings.
Right.
I didn't even know how to use a camera. I didn't know that lenses came off cameras. My first event. The first event I went to, I just had someone gave me a camera. I didn't know you could.
You loser.
Yeah, I know, but I just didn't care. I just was like, if other people do it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Which I think, like, you may think of that as, I don't think that's a negative thing. I kind of love that. Like, I think that.
Yeah, it's worked in my favor to be ignorant like that.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out in something like this as an entrepreneur, you're like, that type of confidence is going to get you through a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been inspired by that with you, where shooting with you as a second shooter is so fun because you just walk in such a confident way, even creatively, where you're like, no, right now I'm an artist and you are not. And I'm going to do my art and you are my canvas. And the bride and groom are just
That's
like
literally my inner thoughts.
The bride and groom, if you ever work with Chris and you're like with his couples, like they literally hire Chris because of who Chris is on the wedding day, like what he captures creatively, but then also like you really turn into like this eccentric, I don't know, neurotic, chaotic artist, and you're just like
pretty accurate.
It's really
the downside is I feel like I end up making my clients walk like 5 miles on a wedding day.
You do.
Let's go there. Let's go there.
The opposite side of that is like I've never seen a bride not be happy to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas like I rarely feel that confidence to push my couples to my creative limits, where I'm much more like, what can I capture, but also keep like the vibe and the mood really fun and loose and relaxed. Like I'm like, that's probably, if I were to say I have a shtick with photography, with wedding photography specifically, it's like, I play music. I want good vibes. I want to relax.
You're good times all
We're
day.
Just having a party and we're capturing pretty photos along the way. Like I'm never going to be like, I want you to climb to the top of that tower and then dangle. I'm like, whereas like you're totally cool being like, we're gonna roll around in the mud.
Yeah,
and
you can say no to this, but I'd like you to put your life on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you okay with that for the photo?
I don't have that in me.
Yeah.
But which is why it's like, I don't know. That's where you should. One of the things that we can talk about too is we've like talked about aesthetic and style and stuff like that, but also like personality is huge. Like my brides would probably hate that you would do that to them. I think what's kind of happens where you start to, for whatever, sometimes even like unconsciously, you start to develop a client base of like consistent types of brides. Whereas like, I feel like on a career / economic level, our brides are similar, highly different personalities.
A lot of lawyers, a lot of doctors.
Yeah. Like, but you get like the creative side of that where they're like, they want to be captured in a very, creative, dynamic way. Whereas I get like pretty classic brides. I wouldn't say necessarily traditional, but they just want to have fun. They just want to party on their wedding day and
Fun, man.
Fun.
What Rebecca Black says.
Fun. Yeah, that's it. Just fun. But like personality is huge. Like I would say another thing for brides is to like, and I tell this to my clients even when I'm talking to them is you spend more time with your photographer than any other vendor on your wedding day.
100%.
And
probably more than you do with like your maid of honor. Or
like
even groom,
making sure you vibe well with your photographer is paramount. There's nothing worse than like loving a photographer's work and then hiring them, but the day of the wedding, they're just a total dud personality wise. And not necessarily like a dud themselves, but like your dynamic does not fit.
Right.
And so then it's awkward. It's not fun. It's kind of just not good.
Yeah, it's not cohesive.
And the pictures may turn out fine.
Yeah,
but the experience itself overall is not the best. That's important. Personality is huge.
I think making a good photo takes effort on both parts. Photography can go so far, but if there's not a good dynamic, then the couple doesn't feel comfortable. Then they're not going to be as emotive or fun. They're not going to produce their own magic
for
to
sure.
be captured. So
yeah. Another thing would be budget, like being upfront about what you cost, and then brides being upfront about like what they can afford.
Yeah.
Well, being transparent.
I don't think that part ever happens. I never know what brides can afford. I'm just like, you reach out to me.
Yeah.
Here's what I call. It's like I cost my services, and then either they just disappear.
Like the ghost.
We keep talking.
Which is like sometimes like more convenient when they just sort of ghost, where it doesn't get awkward.
It's
You're kind of like,
it's okay.
It's like, okay.
I went on enough first dates that didn't have second dates that I understand. Like, whatever. No one's committed to anything right now. It's fine.
Which is what that first consult is. Yeah. That first reach out is like having that conversation and being like,
but it is important to have that consult.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like it when planners will call me and they're like, hey, this bride wants to hire you. And I just send a contract and it's like, cool. Well, I'll learn your last name on the wedding day, I guess. But like, conversation's nice.
That's where like working with planners is the best. I mean, you don't even have to have those conversations. You're just like,
I don't even have to photograph.
We get to move right into the creative part.
I do have to photograph.
Yeah, you do have to photograph. Yeah. It's part of it. The other thing would be like, well, this is interesting. I think this will be fun because communication style for us is very different. Like you're very much like, you don't want or need a lot of details of the day. You want like the timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you pretty much like you want the timeline from the planner, a family photo list if they have it.
Period. That's it.
And that's it. Whereas like, I'm like, I want to know as much as I possibly can about the day, about the timeline from the planner, et cetera. But then also like from the couple, like what's important to you? What do you care about the most?
Well, that might be even like a good, I've never thought of this, but that might be good for brides to just be like, are you comfortable with me giving you a shot list? Because I'm not.
Oh, you mean like a bride telling you this?
Yeah, but like up front, because I've got a wedding coming up soon, and the bride emailed me recently. It's the Hilton Head.
We talked about
We're going, to Hilton Head to photograph this resort wedding, and she was like, "Hey, I'll send you a shot list of everything." And I was just like, "You can, but I just need you to know, if you hired me for my artistic skills, the longer of a shot list you give me throughout the day, the less I'm going to be an artist because I'll just have to be checking boxes."
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, "I want your family list. If you want to send me other stuff, you can." But you should know the longer that list is, the more diminished my creative abilities are going to become. So, and she understood.
Yeah, which is like, that's like, I feel like that's a great example of communication between you as a photographer.
It's just my weakness. I can't be creative and have a checklist.
Yeah,
I can't.
Whereas, like, I feel like sometimes it helps me to know how to navigate the day with my couple, knowing this is something they like more in terms of aesthetic or style. And then I'm able to accommodate that. Not like saying I'm going completely against how I normally shoot, but I'm able to at least lean into what I know they like. And to me, I feel like that helps meet expectations. But again, I think really in general, the wedding industry is the Wild West in terms of vendors. Like everybody's different, especially in a creative sense. Like
it's the Wild West where we're all amicable. No
one's gunning each other. Well, hopefully not gunning each other down in the street in terms of differences. But that's all real. All right. Well, we're kind of getting close to time. So one of the other things we wanted to talk about is one of the things we want to start doing is talking about either, and this doesn't have to be in the wedding industry, but just photographers or other creatives that we're inspired by right now. That's really their work is like, you're like, dang. Freaking love that. And then
I feel like I don't want to talk about that because all the photographers whose work I'm inspired by, I don't know how to pronounce their names because I just see them on Instagram.
Oh, sure.
So I'm just like, well, I just want to embarrass myself if I tell you who I'm embarrassed by or inspired by.
Well, I think just give it a shot and then at them and then let them correct you.
I would be honored to be corrected by the people I'm inspired by.
Dude,
Like for them to be like, oh, this is this person. Oh, that reminds me of several years ago, I bought the knot.com.
Yeah.
I bought
oh my God.
I bought a bunch of URLs really like the Knot Tennessee or the Knot Georgia or the Knot Atlanta.com, and I just forwarded all those websites to sewingclover.com.
Yeah.
And then I got a letter in the mail like 6 months later from the knot.com or Exo Group, I think is their parent company.
Right.
And it just basically said, hey, you need to give us all these 16 URLs or we're going to sue you for $100,000 per URL.
Yeah.
Because I guess the knot's trademarked or something. Anyways, I was like, so I was a little scared because I don't have $1.6 million to hand over to this corporation. But at the same time, I was like, I bought these. You didn't. You could have bought them. So I ended up on the phone with this lawyer from New York City. She calls me. She works for the XR Group. And she's telling me, like, here's the consequences if you don't just give us the URLs. And I remember just being so excited that there was a 20-something or 30-something-year-old woman in New York City that knew my company's name. I was like, ma'am, I'm just so thankful that you know Sewing Clover Photography and you live in New York City. I was like, this is a big moment for me in growth. And I never did give them the URLs and they never sued me. So I guess... But I didn't renew them. I let it, you just let it expire. I just let it expire.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
All things worked out. But I have the letter somewhere still of like, we're going to sue you for $1.6 million. I was like, good luck.
I think this is also, I think I'm more unhinged in my personal life. I think you've done more things professionally where you're like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like the fact that you bought 16 URLs from the Knot, not from the Knot,
not from the Knot,
of the Knot,
from like GoDaddy or something.
From like GoDaddy or whatever. Yeah. And then their parent company reaches out threatening to sue you for $1.6 million.
Yeah.
And then you have to get on the phone and you're not trepidatious.
I didn't own anything. I didn't have anything.
You're
like, what are you going to take?
Hell yeah.
You take my Mazda 3?
This woman in New York knows who I am now.
Yeah. I remember asking her, I was like, are you married? Are you going to get married?
You're trying to sell yourself?
Well, yeah, I was like, I'm a wedding photographer.
Man, see, that's this is the confidence we need here. This is what I love. This is the confidence.
Anyways, I don't know what we were talking about before.
Yeah, it's just inspiration. So like, that's what we're working on right now.
We might have to work on that in the next episode.
That's fine. I can say mine.
Yeah, you say yours.
Yeah, I think I mentioned her last pod. Sarah Faluga. Like her work, her editorial work is so good. Like,
what do you mean? Like, what's good about it?
Her use of space and architecture with her couples. I love her. I love the liminal space that she captures overall.
The old liminal space.
And then I think like there's a sense of just like clean nostalgia to her stuff. Not like in like a blurry, out of focus way, but in like a there's a feeling of like the photos are intimate. But there's a feeling of like being not necessarily third party, but like you're viewing it from the outside in a really romantic sense. And I really like the way they feel overall. I messaged her one time when she was in Hong Kong shooting, and I was like, favorite city, love that city. Would love to shoot a wedding in Hong Kong sometimes. And we talked about Hong Kong for like 3 minutes. She probably doesn't remember this, but I hold on to it.
Did you ask her if you can come shoot with her?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
But Sarah, if you
that.
see this, if you ever want to shoot together, you know where to find me.
Where does she find you?
On podcasts, wherever you listen to them, on our YouTube channel and social media. And I think that wraps up our second pod.
A segue.
Yeah.
To the exit.
I think that worked out nicely though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Solid. Hey, cheers.
Okay.
Cheers to
us. Is this our thing? We're going to do this every episode?
Maybe. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks.
We're out.